What do we do? Justice is under attack by MAGAs. What do we do? The Constitution is under attack. What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Fight back! Stand up, fight back! Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back!
Trans kids are under attack. What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Hungary League is under attack. What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Healthcare is under attack. What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Privacy is under attack by guns. What do we do?
Thousands of people turned out in Boise on Saturday protesting against Trump, protesting against Trump and what he and his top campaign donor are doing to the U.S. government. Lower Manhattan this weekend, what they call a die-in. Thousands of people protesting what Trump and Musk are doing and their threats to things like Medicaid and Medicare that tens of millions of Americans rely upon. Protests against Trump and his top campaign donor are everywhere. People in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and in Olympia, Washington this weekend protesting at their state capitol buildings in support of veterans and against Trump's cuts to the VA. People in Kansas City, Missouri this weekend, Save the Civil Service. People in Reno, Nevada this weekend outside the office of Republican Congressman Mark Amadei. More big protests this weekend in Boston on Saturday, in Tarrytown, New York, where they said courage is contagious this weekend. But some of these protests are small, too, which actually shows its own kind of courage. Little protests, little sort of sparky, spunky protests this weekend in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and in Canton, Ohio. Even after President Trump and his top campaign donor and the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, all started threatening Americans who don't support Elon Musk's car company. They started threatening people that they'd be hit with terrorism charges or that these, boycotting Tesla or protesting against Tesla was somehow specially illegal in a way that other forms of protests aren't, which is nonsense legally, but they issued the threats anyway. Even after those threats last week from Trump, from Musk, from Attorney General Pam Bondi, there were dozens and dozens and dozens of protests at Tesla dealerships all over the country this weekend. There was a big one in Tucson, Arizona, another big one in Pasadena, California, another one in Seattle, Washington. But they were everywhere, from Golden Valley, Minnesota, to Santa Rosa, California, to Loveland, Colorado, to Cleveland, Ohio, to Austin, Texas, to South Burlington, Vermont. Protesters all over the country with this simple and now defiant message. Just asking people simply, if you drive a Tesla, please sell it. And if you own stock in Tesla, please dump it. Elon Musk is not a government official, right? He was never elected. And so this is the way people are trying to protest against Elon Musk and his role in our government. We saw constituents of Republican Congressman Lloyd Smucker turn out in Lancaster, Pennsylvania this weekend. They held essentially a mock town hall in the name of Congressman Smucker. Since he won't hold any real ones with his actual constituents, they did it for him. Tucson area constituents of Republican Congressman Juan Ciscomani held a big town hall in his name because he won't meet with his constituents now at all, and so they met without him. They saved him a seat.
Do you condemn violence against Tesla owners and Tesla dealerships?
Of course, violence is dangerous and wrong, and those who commit it should be held accountable. And there are millions of Americans right now speaking out against their health care being taken away, speaking out against money being taken away from their taxpayer pockets and being handed out in federal contracts. So we should be having the conversation about how is it that Elon Musk, who makes $8 million a day from federal contracts, as you just said,
Okay.
why is he looking for even more contracts? It was just reported he's trying to land a contract with the FAA so that he can get billions of dollars for Starlink out of that. He was trying to land a huge contract with the State Department until he got caught by the press. We should agree whether you're a Democratic or a Republican president, you shouldn't be allowed to appoint a billionaire to the government and then for him to look for billions of dollars in contracts for himself. That's corruption at its finest, and we need a Republican Party and a Democratic Party that's willing to speak out against that kind of corruption.
Well, clearly President Trump thinks Elon Musk brings a whole lot to the table, being such a wildly successful businessman.
Well, I mean, he brought hundreds of millions of dollars to his campaign.
Congressman Greg Casar, the great state of Texas, thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks so much, and I appreciate your viewers for listening.
Next up, we've got Scott Peoples, everybody, who you all may have seen on the campaign trail this last year, fighting for veterans and working families across our state, folks.
Hello, Raleigh! And thank you to the NCDP for giving me the time to speak today. My name is Scott Peoples. I am an Army veteran of the 82nd Airborne Division. And I now work for an organization called Veterans for Responsible Leadership, and I am also enrolled in the Durham VA Medical Center. I am here to talk about how the DOGE cuts have already negatively impacted the veteran community, and how, if these cuts continue, it will be devastating long term. Let me be perfectly clear. The Trump administration is on pace to be the most anti-veteran administration in the history of America. Veterans make up 30% of the federal workforce. And because of the mass firing since Trump's inauguration, more than 6,000 veterans have already lost their jobs without just cause. The veteran community is getting massively hurt by these cuts because there have already been 2,500 federal workers fired from the VA, which is the primary source for veterans health care in America. And it was recently reported that in the coming months, the Trump administration plans to fire over 83,000 more employees from the VA. This would mean that almost 20% of the VA workforce would be out of a job, and tens of thousands more veterans would be unemployed. This is shameful. The hardworking people at the VA are patriots, and they deserve our gratitude, our respect, and our support. In August of 2022, the Biden-Harris administration passed the PACT Act, a monumental piece of legislation that allows veterans to file claims for medical issues that they experienced as a result of being exposed to toxic chemicals from burn pits while deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and all the way back to the Vietnam War when our brave soldiers were exposed to Agent Orange. Since that time, almost 1 million more veterans have enrolled in the VA system because they are now eligible for those much-needed benefits. But now, there is a real possibility that these heroes will not get the care that they were promised. Make no mistake about it. If these layoffs continue, then there will be veterans that die because they will not get the timely and quality care that they have earned. I live in North Carolina's 13th Congressional District, which is represented by Republican Congressman Brad Knott. Over the last few weeks, I have made numerous attempts to email and call his office to ask how these cuts are going to impact the Durham and Fayetteville medical centers, because there are 50,000 veterans living in NC-13, and a large portion use these two clinics as their primary healthcare facility. But I have not received a single response from his office, not even a courtesy email. Because you see, Congressman Knott was elected in one of the most partisan gerrymandered districts in the entire state, which means that he believes his seat is safe forever, and he only needs to answer to Donald Trump and the MAGA base. I am calling on Congressman Knott to stop being a coward and hold an in-person town hall so you can explain to the veteran community why you rubber stamp Trump's agenda that continues.
Elon Musk wants to eliminate Social Security. Republicans know that even cutting it outright would be massively unpopular because Social Security is one of the most successful programs in the country, if not the most successful. To get around that, it appears the Trump administration is gutting the program's resources, trying to decapitate it. As Senator Elizabeth Warren pointed out in the confirmation hearing for the new Social Security Commissioner today.
DOJ is considering slashing up to 50% of the Social Security Administration's workforce. That means longer lines, more errors. And for everyone who gives up or who dies before they get their benefits sorted out, those delays and errors also turn into benefit cuts. The law is to deliver the benefits that people are legally entitled to. If you don't have the staff, if you don't answer the phones, if you don't fix the mistakes, people don't get what they're legally entitled to.
Joining me now is Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat of Massachusetts, a member of the Finance Committee that held today's confirmation hearing. Senator, let me start with this. We've heard lots of reporting. The Washington Post had a rundown of the kind of chaos in the system, the web outages, the phones ringing off the hook, the offices understaffed. Are you hearing this just first person as a senator from constituents? Are you getting this in your offices about what is happening to this program?
Yes, we are hearing it everywhere. And understand the personal toll that we're talking about for these folks. More than half of the people who receive Social Security count on it to put groceries on the table and keep a roof over their heads. We're talking about people in their 70s, in their 80s, in their 90s, people who often have mobility challenges, people who struggle. And what's happening right now at the Social Security office is they're saying, in effect, nobody really to answer the phones. So that means you got to find somebody to get you down to a Social Security office. Oh, whoops. They closed that Social Security office, so you got to travel, 2 hours, 3 hours to be able to get to another Social Security office. When you get there, we're hearing about lines that are 50 people long with 2 people in the Social Security office to try to help answer questions.
To see are people protesting, and they're protesting Trump and Musk because they are uniquely detestable. What is so important to understand right now is that Trump is both a philosophical danger, but also just ruining regular working class people's daily lives. Whether those are actively working class people or retired people or whatever. We can both acknowledge the danger and dastardliness of Donald and Elon and their uniquely corrupt, perverse relationship, and how Trump is helping Elon's company and Elon is using his company's wealth and his personal wealth to help him, and the whole mess. But ultimately why people are extra mad, including a lot of Republicans and people that are not necessarily the usual protesting types, is that Trump is messing with your Social Security, your Medicare, your Medicaid, and the public servants that you love and respect. Like, that's what's happening here. Donald is creating a unique storm that didn't even really first exist when he was originally president. And it's because his plans are so far right now on economics and on cultural and democratic issues that it's created a broad coalition of people that might not even all agree. That some of them voted for Trump like a few weeks ago, really, like in the grand scheme. It's been a few months, but you could count it in weeks. And now they're protesting him in the street. That's the movement here. And that's something that's gotta carry forward. Keep protesting him, and then eventually we'll give them all the boot in November of 2026 and 28.